Hello.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the
Hi.
Jedi Archives Special Edition. We are going over the Acolyte pre-show. Guess this is where we do our predictions and our hopes and dreams and all that stuff. But first, I'm John.
I am Bryce.
And I'm Mike.
All right, we have some
And
questions submitted to us by the audience.
oh,
Hey,
before we
we've
get
got
started,
questions submitted by the one and only Mark Van Olen.
he's just not here to join us today, but we're gonna follow on through with his schedule. As announced by Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy on Disney Investor Day 4 years ago in 2020, Leslie Headland's Emmy-nominated creator of the 2019 series Russian Dolls is bringing us the new Star Wars series on Disney Plus, The Acolyte, which is a mystery thriller that will take us into a galaxy of shadowy secrets and emerging dark side powers in the final days of the High Republic era. And it debuts tomorrow night with the first 2 episodes on Disney Plus. So the first question that we're gonna go over with you is the High Republic. What is it? So I have some notes here, and if you don't mind, I'll start off with that. Then we can just jump in.
Of course, Mike has some notes.
Mike,
So
how
the High
many
Republic,
pages?
no, 1 page. So the High Republic era, also known as the Age of the High Republic, was a time period that was from between 500 BBY up to about 100 BBY, in which the Galactic Republic was at its height of its time of exploration, expansion, and its zenith of power. So the Jedi Order was significantly more spread out in the galaxy and were incredibly open, much more diverse and accepting. And if you've read the High Republic, you know what that means. So, what do you guys want to add to that?
The one thing I want to
Well,
say about
oh,
the
go
High
ahead, John.
Republic was it was really what it was all under this banner called Project Luminous, which Lucasfilm wanted to do. Like, let's start something new, and I think they got a lot of their inspiration from the old Republic. But they're like, let's not go so far back. Let's have some. Let's be able to have some nostalgia and bring in some characters we may know, like Yoda and Jabba. If you guys haven't read it before, but spoilers, like some of these characters are that old. But it's more than just like the Jedi. It's the one thing I found really interesting. It's how they really established the hyperspace lanes. I mean, it's really that. I mean, it starts off with the prospectors, and then they go through how they learn that. It's really important when you think of the big
Mm-hmm.
picture of the Star Wars galaxy. So it kind of goes parallel with the Jedi and their progression and all that. And it's interesting though, is because the trilogy, this window, this Project Luminous they're talking about, isn't technically over. We still have, I don't know, a year or so left of stuff before they wrap up the big arc. But the show's coming out, which is supposed to be 50 years, 100 years around there after Phase 3,
Yes.
if I'm correct.
It's
So
100 years before the uh,
the
the
Phantom
fall of the
Menace.
Jedi era. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
So,
like
but
32 years before the end of Phase 3.
Yeah, it's kind of
after
I
Phase
guess
3.
It's in Phase 3.
So this is
it's
considered
it's
Phase
the
3?
end of Phase 3, though.
Yeah, the end of Phase 3.
I do believe that the books are going to lead into the show, which is kind of funny because that's kind of like how HBO did the last season of Game of Thrones. Was they did the show without the book being done.
Yeah.
So I to me though, obviously you touched on Project Luminous, but that was Celebration 2019 in Chicago when all of that was announced, and I remember just being super excited. And then obviously having read, I have a couple books behind, but having read everything, comics, the books, the junior novels, the young adult novels, like I was hoping at some point we were going to get like the High Republic in a show, and I love how they're taking, you know, one character that we know of for sure from the books with Vernestra Rowe and bringing her in and buying that thing, but then we're then seeing how the Sith are starting to return to set up like Palpatine and everything else. So it's pretty sweet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I just want to add that I did read the Living Force, which is the last book that I finished reading, and it does bridge a little bit closer to this era because that's 1 year before the
Phantom
Phantom
Menace.
Menace,
Yep.
and so and in there it really starts setting up more about the Sith. Uh, Spoiler alert. So because really in the High Republic there is no Sith that we know of. So there's like dark
Right.
side powers, or there's the dark side, and they try to avoid it. But there really is no Sith, and so I think this the Acolyte's going to be the first time that we see anything. Well, it's the first time that we see a red saber, I think, right? Because we haven't seen any red
Yes.
sabers in the High Republic.
Yeah, and then
So
obviously the latest trailer, we actually get a little bit more of that mysterious character that carries that
mhm.
on the ground. So I who that actually is. That's
Bryce,
kind of
did
cool
you
to
hear that?
actually see.
Did you hear Bryce, Jonathan? You're muted.
I'm muted.
No, Jonathan's muted.
He doesn't
His last
seem
sentence
muted.
I did not hear.
Oh,
Really?
repeat the last. I didn't either.
What is the last thing you heard? I'm sorry.
We didn't hear the last sentence. You were saying
Everything you
about
Oh,
the
what did
one
you
who
hear before that though?
carries the lightsaber, the red lightsaber.
Oh, like we're going to get character reveal for sure because in one of
All
the other
right,
trailers, you actually see the helmet on the ground and somebody picking it up. So
right.
we'll see who that is. But it's interesting to see that this last trailer. There's, I think you hear the voice as well. So I'd
Hmm.
be kind of curious to actually see. It's definitely not a Merrick situation where we're all going to be wondering
Who it is, right?
what does he look like underneath the helmet. We're actually probably going to see that, so it'd be cool.
Yeah. So that was the first question. What is the High Republic? So it gives you a little rundown of that. But I just want to add last thing is that if you haven't read the High Republic, either the comics or the novels or the books, it is really well written. It was very well thought out, and it does have organization to it, and there is direction in the entire High
Yes,
Republic. So that's a
I
nice
and
thing that,
I
yeah.
do have to say, the whole Project Luminous is probably out of most comic books, the most ambitious, organized plan laid out with books. I mean, you've seen books, series laid out. Right now, the Star Wars is doing a lot of crossover right now, just regular Star Wars. But this
Mhm.
is
right.
books, everything. This is huge, and they've done a really good job of not contradicting themselves at all. So they had a lot of pre-work into this
Yes.
Oh yeah,
massive thing. It's what is
it,
it like
it
30 books by
concept.
now, and
It's a
Yeah.
hundreds of
lot.
comics. It's a
It's
lot
massive. Yeah.
overlapping.
And
Yeah, there's even a
ver-
video game. There's all kinds of stuff wrapped into this, and they have not contradicted themselves. So a lot of work. As I say, I really appreciate that. Might be the thing
Yeah,
that I think
huge.
Mike likes the most. How they all work together
What's a
that
huge?
well. So
it does. I love all the connections for
yeah,
sure.
Well, and the beautiful thing is, so huge shout out to Kevin Scott and Charles Soule, Justina Ireland, Claudia Gray, and Daniel Jose Older for writing. Especially all the Phase One books. But what I really appreciate the most about this is it was carefully thought out, like what you guys were saying, but it was also thought out in the same way that George Lucas had done Star Wars, right? We've got the middle, so phase one is episodes 4, 5, and 6, and then
Mhm.
phase two went
Was
into
the
the
prequel.
prequels
Mhm.
for 1, 2, and 3, and now we're getting 7, 8, and 9 in phase three. So it's awesome that they wrote the books in the fashion in which the Skywalker saga was actually made. So
Mhm.
to me, I think that was huge. Instead of just giving us that one linear timeline, we're getting it, but we're getting it in the phases that we got the movies. So it was really cool.
Right, right.
yeah.
And yeah, my buddy Kevin Scott, who follows me and sends me private messages and FaceTimes me,
Say hi to him.
makes
Yeah, the FaceTime thing, I'm not sure. Let's.
The
well,
one
okay.
thing
So Sam
one
did.
thing I want to add is I don't believe this is for all you guys who don't know anything about the High Republic. I don't think you need to know too much about the High Republic to enjoy this show, because
No, I don't.
you guys are saying maybe it's part of end of Phase 3. I believe it's after Phase 3, honestly, just because the main villain. I don't know if you guys want to spoil it for people who haven't watched, but the villains, I believe they're gone in the book in the Phase 3. So I believe this has a clear distinction between them. So I don't think you need to know anything about it. The High Republic books to enjoy the show.
I agree.
No,
I agree.
that's the thing with the books too. So 100% agree with that, because same as the books, like you can jump in at any time
Mm-hmm.
and get a full story. If you want to introduce your your 10-year-old to the High Republic and have them read the junior novels, you could just have them read all the junior novels in timeline order and get a full blown story. That's the thing. Like, it's still High Republic esque. As you can see, like what we're used to seeing in like the comics and stuff is a little bit more like elegant robes and everything, and in the Acolyte, it's really toned down. Like there's still some of that High Republic presence, but it's a lot more of what we see from like Yoda and Mace Windu. Like we're seeing that transition of going away from this, these really decorative robes, ceremonial robes, and everything like that, to more of what we're used to seeing in the movies.
Mm-hmm. Right. And the nice thing about the High Republic is that the adult novels are from the perspective of the adults. So they're all Jedi Masters, Jedi Knights. The young adult books are like the Padawans' point of views. And then the children's books are from like the younglings' points of views. And even, I like it, but the Young Jedi Adventures also is in the High Republic era. And we had crossover with characters with Bell Zettifar showing up in the series for the preschoolers to enjoy. So it's nice to see all those connections, and it's from those different perspectives. So for me, that I've enjoyed all aspects of it. It's very rich and full. But if you just follow the one, so if like the school age kids want to read the ones from the Padawans' point of view, they'll get the full story from that perspective. So I really appreciate that. The next question was about the Star Wars timeline. All right, and so the next question is about the timeline. When does the Acolyte take place? So the Acolyte does take place 132 years BBY, which is 32 years prior to the fall of the Jedi era, or 99 years before the Living Force novelization, and 100 years prior to the events of Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. And it acts as a bridge of sorts between the High Republic and the fall of the Jedi eras. We have those two eras.
I'm glad you have all that information. I didn't know that was actually released. So I always just heard like people. One time I heard Acolyte was 50 years. Then I heard they went back to 100. They're kind of
it's 100. Yeah,
boggling that.
100.
I think it's even in one of the trailers. I think it says 100 years before the events.
I'm glad it's further away. So
yeah.
That means it's closer to Phase 3, which I'm more happy about.
Well, they can't. Oh, go ahead, John.
I didn't want Vernestra Rowe to be like 200 years old or something like that.
Well,
so I'm glad. Yeah.
What did they say she was?
I think she is pretty old. Yeah.
She's 100 and oh man, what 119, 130, somewhere right in that range. I think they said there's something out there that says that's her age at the time. Like
right. So that's why you don't need to know the High Republic characters, because most of them are dead, except for the aliens. There's a few that.
Right, Vernestra, we could possibly get Yoda. Obviously, that's something that would be kind of interesting to see.
I heard that he's not. I heard that we're not getting any of the,
and that's fine too. If we don't get any of the Jedi Council, I think that's fine. I'd say if we do, if we do, it's it would make sense for Yoda to make a cameo, because then we're seeing, that he's there. But if we don't get it at all, I think that's totally fine. I think there's enough Jedi Masters.
I do want to say I could see them putting him in like a cameo, just like in a room or something, just so they can add him as an action figure.
Of course, another Black Series Yoda.
That's the only thing I could see is like let's put him real quick so we can make some money off of it.
I would love to see. On a side note, because they started putting out more Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones characters, like Kayata Munde is now out and available, but I would like to see an actual Phantom Menace version of Yoda in the Black Series. That would be cool.
And you know what? And since you mentioned Kayata Mundi, just so you guys know, in the Living Force, that guy's hilarious. So we didn't get much of him in the Phantom Menace, but in the novelization of the Living Force, it really goes into a lot of detail of every council member. So all of them get a fair amount of the book, and he's hilarious. He's just like a
What
jokester.
about what's that famous line read about the droid attack on the Wookiees? Is that how he says it?
Are you talking about Anakin?
No,
The
Kiadi Mundi says that. Like
Yadi
they're
Mundi.
talking in the meeting out of nowhere. He goes, "What about the droid attack on the Wookiees?" And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, well, there's a meme of Jake Lloyd's Anakin that says, you know, when he's doing the speeder cup, and it, I think Yoda, when Yoda says your thoughts, you know, your thoughts are dwell elsewhere, and he goes, yeah, the droid attack on the Wookiees.
"Yeah,
So
because
there's a
it's so
meme
out
of
of
him
nowhere."
doing that too.
So that's why everyone kind of teases that part where he
Yeah.
says it. Like, "What are you talking about? We're talking about something else right now."
So just so you guys know, we're already addressing the third question, which is the Acolyte. What do we need to know? And so we're kind of bringing that up already. It's kind of just intermesh, but so let's continue with that. What do you think we need to know for the Acolyte for those who have not read the High Republic? And I think we're all in agreement that you don't really have to know anything about the High Republic to
Yeah,
enjoy
this
it.
is the downfall, though. This is like the starting of the downfall
Mhm.
of the Jedi. Like we kind of understand that that we were peaked kind of right at the beginning of phase 1. We
Mhm.
understand like everything was great, all this other stuff, and then the great disaster happens, and then we see this slow turn, you know, of the Jedi. We see the Nameless, which are, you know,
Mhm.
these basically force, you know, sucking creatures that literally turn
The-
you into a husk, and then eventually you just
Yeah.
crumble into ash.
They eat the
Uh,
Force. They're Force
yeah,
feeders. Mhm.
and so like we see, you know, the Nile and what they can cause, and we see all this, and we see that the Jedi are really, really vulnerable.
Mhm.
Um, because they're supposed to live by a certain set of rules, and now we start seeing that there's stricter rules. We see advancement happening a lot
Right.
faster from.
Well, since you mentioned the stricter rules, that's something that came up very clearly in the comics. Remember, John? Remember when we got all the laws that came up as a result of the Nameless and the
Yeah, right at the beginning of yeah.
phase
What do they call
3?
them? The wartime. I don't know. The
Yep. That was
declaration.
wartime something, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and
But
they
they
came
had
up with
these
all these new.
strict laws and rules, and then they started mass producing lightsabers because prior to this they were super ornate. And then
Correct.
we're like, how come they're not as ornate anymore? And then we got that answer in the comics. But that was pretty cool to have it in the
Well,
comic.
also want to say the difference is we see a lot more romantic involvement with the Jedi, and
Lot.
a lot more in
Yes.
the High Republic, and they never say really not supposed to do any of that. So I'm thinking
Mm-mm.
this is the time where they go from less gaudy to more monk-like, and more rules, trying to
Right.
restrict
Yeah.
them, stuff like that. But I do want to say, let's go back to Key Adi Mundi. One thing we should know is he says in the Phantom Menace, the Sith have been extinct for a millennium, right? Which is 1,000 years. So I think that's something we do need to know about this series is that if we see Sith, they're not going to reveal that they're Sith to the Jedi. Or if they do reveal it to the Jedi, that Jedi dies, or they don't believe the Jedi when you make reports. It's really hard to believe. So I just maybe
Mhm.
reveals it to youngling or something like that. But or the Jedi are so hubris, like you didn't see a Sith. So I think
Right,
something like that could happen.
because even Yoda, when Qui-Gon told Yoda that he believed he was a Sith, they were all incredulous, like, no, it's impossible, and Yoda's like, no, there's no Sith. But Qui-Gon told
Yes.
him himself, I believe he was, and they just like shot it down. So yeah, I don't think they've seen any.
So
No, and
I
that's the
think,
thing. Like
yeah,
they're,
some kind of
you,
denial, or they don't see it, or they
Mhm.
don't
yeah,
live.
and it goes all the way back to what the Darth, like the Darth Bane trilogy, you know, the rule of two, and establishing, you know, a master and apprentice all throughout that. Um, but the timeline, you know, going back to the timeline, it has to be prior to Plagueis. You know what I mean? Because like Plagueis,
Oh, the Acolyte.
yeah,
Yes.
the Acolyte has to be before Plagueis, because Plagueis is like that. Sorry, bothers me that specific book did not say hey, it's canon. In my mind, it's canon because Palpatine's in it.
Right.
And it's
And it's
mentioned
really
in the
good.
movies. Yeah, and it's
Mhm.
great. James Lucchino, great book. But that's a crucial book, though. Whether you consider it canon or whether you consider it Legends doesn't matter. It's a crucial book in the Star Wars universe. But that's why the Acolyte has to be before that, because at some point Palpatine has to be trained, and maybe the Acolyte is Plagueis. Maybe that's who we find out, and maybe that's how that all connects into Episode 1. So there's a lot of cool things that could happen with this mysterious character. With the mask, maybe it turns out to be Plagueis. Maybe we get a Plagueis. I don't know. I still think it's Keanu Reeves, but
Well, because it would be somebody born like, say, 1924 or during the 1924 time period. Because I'm thinking 100 years before us now is 1924. So could Plagueis be during 1924, 1920s? And then
Considering how old Palpatine is, yeah. He's a
how old
pretty
is
old
I
guy.
remember Palpatine.
Palpatine's dinosaur.
No, he's a human, so he can't be
No,
too
not
old.
literal dinosaur. I mean, he's old.
Oh,
I mean, I get it that, but I mean, like when we see, you have to understand, like he goes. Obviously, he's basically a Sith Lord even before Episode 1, because at some point he gets Maul. Maul just doesn't show up and all become his apprentice. Maul's been trained before Episode 1.
he's already. You're right. So
You know what I
he's
mean?
been-
So he's been in hiding in the shadows.
Yeah.
He's probably would be really cool is if like we got like a Palpatine series showing how he became a senator, but how he was a Sith Lord this whole time and how he worked his way into being a senator, and how he either went to Dathomir and got Maul or whatever. I think that would be a really cool story to tell. But at some point, like, the Acolyte has to bridge to Plagueis and Plagueis to Palpatine to make
maybe
it all
the
work.
Acolyte is Snoke, and Snoke was Palpatine's Plagueis.
It's gonna mute you right now.
How? What?
He's messing with you.
I'm
Messing
messing
with
with
us.
you. Let's go on to the last question, and then we're going to wrap it up. So essentially, you don't need to know much to enjoy the Acolyte because it's all new characters. So it's going to be all new lore introduced, and we're all learning as we go along. So that's good news.
Yeah.
The last question is:
Great cast.
Great cast, absolutely. What are we most looking forward to, the three of us? And so we'll start off with John. So what are you most looking forward to?
John.
Pass.
Wow.
Bryce.
I'm looking forward to seeing who the mysterious dark side user is. That's the best way I can put it, because I don't know if that particular character is considered the Acolyte or if it's going to be somebody else that's in the show. Is that May? I don't know. Like, that's probably what'll be hashed out during the show. But I really want to know who it is. Personally, I would love to see that it's Keanu Reeves behind the mask. I really do, because I think that would be really cool. It's been rumored for so long. It would just be kind of cool to get him into, one show. If this is it, he's in a couple episodes, whatever. I think it would just be kind of cool. It'd be really cool fan service.
Well, we've got Trinity.
Right.
Might as well get Neo.
That's what I'm saying. That is what I'm saying. Like, Carrie-Anne Moss is in this. Like, it probably wouldn't
Have we
take
seen
much.
Carrie-Anne Moss in any scenes in the trailer that's not in that fight?
Yes.
Yes.
We have?
A
Every time I watch
flashback.
it, I feel like she's in the
There's
flashback.
a flashback scene.
There's a flashback with her
Where
and Master Soul when
I'm
he's got
thinking
shorter hair.
Yeah, I'm thinking so too. I'm thinking so too.
You think of what? That she's actually...
We're communicating through the Force.
I'm thinking she's the one that they say she's killing Jedi. I think she's the Jedi that's killed. I think you see her like in the first episode, and that's it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's
well. Notice. Okay, from the trailers, if you notice, remember when she's in the cafe, right? And then that character comes in
May.
Maybe it's May's twin sister.
Well, and that's supposed to be something that's rumored too. Is that
right?
Especially because there's the poster behind us.
Yes,
there's 2 Mays.
So the thing is this: she shows up in the cafe and she's fighting her, right? And then she throws all the darts, and then at the end they show that she's escaped, right? She's gone, like she went out the window. But then in another trailer, they come in, walking in there, and they start picking up the darts. It's other Jedi pulling up the evidence of what happened. So I think that she was distracted, went to go check, and then got stabbed in the back or something. And then the other Jedi come in to find
Maybe,
her.
maybe.
We'll
I
see.
don't think they've released that. Disney's good at this.
None of these are spoilers, people. This is all just speculation.
Yeah,
speculation.
but
It's from
they're
the
also like
trailers.
IMDb's really good at with Disney only sharing part of the information of like how many episodes everybody's in. That hasn't been it hasn't been released yet.
No.
So I mean, that's possible. I think you would have to go back and try to watch that particular trailer, which I think is called Conflict. It might be is what that one's called. And then it's not the latest one, but the one right before that is the one where they pick up the lightsaber. I think now I have to go back and watch before tomorrow to see if that's the same lightsaber, because now I have to know. I'm just going to do it.
And then one more, there's that TV spot where it's the scene from The Fugitive, where she's like in front of like a waterfall.
Oh yeah,
it wasn't me.
Yeah, it wasn't me. Yeah.
Yes.
And
that reminds me of too in the High Republic. Remember how we had the sisters, right? Where one was taken to the Jedi Order, becomes a Jedi, but then her sister Alicia becomes the mother because she was not taken into the Jedi Order. She wasn't strong enough in the Force, and she had this resentment. But she still had some Force abilities, just not to the degree that was necessary to be taken into the Order. And I think that maybe between May and her twin sister, maybe only May had the potential to really be maybe her sister flunked out, and now she has this resentment. Because also in the Rise of the Red Blades, you have the one character who did flunk out, who ended up being just like a janitor and fixing droids in the Jedi Temple. But he was also instrumental in identifying for Sidious, for Palpatine, who are the ones that might be turned into Inquisitors. And so I like all that. It's interesting.
Yeah, and just hats off to Amandla. She is extremely talented. I was thinking just not just her, if she is playing two different characters in the Acolyte. Hats off, because from what I've seen in the trailer, she's phenomenal. But she's also a very accomplished violinist, and that one trailer where it's her and her violin is a much watch. Doesn't have to be obviously before the show airs, but if you haven't seen her violin video, it's on Star Wars YouTube. That is incredible. So that's really cool that she got to sit and do some of the music, Star Wars music on her violin. That was really cool.
That is pretty awesome. So I guess I'll go next because Jonathan passed, and he'll have the last word.
He definitely wants the last word, because then he's going to end the recording real quick.
So I just want to say I'm really looking for a lot of what Bryce has already stated. I'm looking forward to that, but also I'm looking forward to Kelnaka. So we got pictures of him.
Yes.
He's the Wookiee Jedi. And can I show this? Let me see. Here he is. So this is real. This is gonna be a one.
Are you Thunder Stealer?
Issue comic. I thought you were gonna say it, Bryce, because you sent us that. But yeah, he's definitely. We've seen him in the trailers. We've seen there's this Wookiee there. We didn't know who it was, but now it's revealed it's Kelnaka. Looks pretty awesome. I can't wait to see him because we've never had a Wookiee Jedi, and
we haven't had a Wookiee Jedi.
Well, in live action.
Well, in live action, correct. But we've had it in animation.
In Rebels.
Had it in Clone Wars, Bad Batch. Come on.
But this is the first real Wookiee.
Yeah, and obviously Eunice is awesome.
Eunice plays his character.
So really cool that he's back doing a Wookiee that's not named Chewbacca.
The one thing that's funny about Kelnaka, this is the first Wookiee wearing clothes, so everyone's like, were the other ones just all naked?
Have you seen the one? Have you seen the one poster of Acolyte?
Is he wearing like a skirt? Is everything?
No, he ain't wearing anything. He's not wearing anything.
This one's fully dressed.
Yeah, that one is, because it's a cover to a comic book. But the one poster, if you look up the poster for him in there, he doesn't have anything on. I think he's got like a necklace. I think he's got like a necklace.
That's going to be quite controversial. So,
So
all right, Jonathan, last word. What are you looking forward to?
Honestly, I just want it to be. I know this is probably not the point of view of a lot of people, but I just want it to be good.
I
I
think
want
it
it to
will
be in
be.
line. I want it to be in line with Star Wars. That's kind of a big thing for me. And already some of the fight scenes are definitely out of line with Star Wars, but I don't think it's going to hurt it for me. I just want it to stay as true as possible to Star Wars. And so that's kind of the one thing. I just want it to be good. So I'm not looking for anything specific. Just want it to be good, and I think it will be. Anyone have any idea what the O is in the Acolyte though? Why does it look like that? Why does it look like a ring? Or is that just artistic
like
I think it's like
design?
the
two O's.
melding. I think it's like the melding of the light and the dark.
I think it's like twins. There's twin circles
Maybe,
there.
and
The
that
O.
might be that too. Yeah,
There's two
and
O's.
so
Like do the
we'll
O
find
again?
out.
You give us a symbol. Okay.
Anyway, be sure you're following us on YouTube at Virtual Cantina Network, on
On
Instagram at
Instagram.
virtual.cantina network, on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Cantina Virtual, on Threads at virtual.cantina network, on Hive at Virtual Cantina, and on TikTok at Virtual Cantina. And be sure to like the mother page, Star Wars Celebration Japan 2025. And as always, thank you to the partner pages, Star Wars Comic Book Club and Star Wars Book Nerds.
And we will be doing an after show every Friday, I believe we
Starting
decided.
this Friday. So
Yeah, starting
come
this
back
Friday,
with
we
our
have some
after
reaction
show this
videos.
Friday and enjoy the Acolyte tomorrow night.
We will.
I'm probably going to be enjoying it right now while you're watching this because I have tickets to the preview at the El Capitan. So we'll see you Friday.
All right.